I want to give you a little science here of how emotional intelligence works. Okay? When you have a dominant negative thought, put your hand back here is the spinal cord. See? You have a dominant negative thought. I can't, I won't, I never could. That goes up through your spinal cord with an electrical current and goes through a part of the brain that is the gatekeeper called the reticular activating system. Fancy name. It doesn't analyze it, it just lets it through. Strongest one. So think about the typical ADDer. I can't, I won't, it's negative, it's hopeless. And I will assure you that this hopelessness that I'm talking about, after a relatively disciplined time of learning to pay attention to what you pay attention to and identifying your strengths and stuff, that negative thought can be turned into a dominant positive thought with work. 5-to-1 ratio, remember, 5 positives to 1 negatives. And let's say we're doing that, but the typical one is the negative. When that negative thought goes through, it turns into chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol. And guess where it goes? It wants to get up to the prefrontal cortex, that's the rational part, but it has to stop along the way at the limbic system. And in that limbic system is a fancy watchdog called the amygdala, the watchdog. And what the watchdog does is says, is this an emergency? Is this good? Is this bad? And if it's an emergency, if imminent danger is on the way, it's stuck right in there. And it turns into cortisol, like I said, which creates more stress, and it stays in your body for 48 hours or longer. Or adrenaline, which creates fight or flight. And if you don't pause, so there you are, you've started here, you're here, you're emotionally hijacked, and you don't pause, pausing allows you to access the part of the brain that allows you to identify it. It's the part of the brain that says, how is this thought serving me? What is this thought? What can I do about it? When we don't pause and we get hijacked by our emotions, we don't have the rational part. The rational part, this part, the prefrontal cortex, the part that makes us human, the most evolved part of the brain, can't communicate with the limbic system. It can't stop it, but it can diminish it. Now, we don't want to get to this point. We don't want to get to the point where the emotion is so strong. We can manage that. It's much harder. We want to get to the situation where we identify the situations and have prompts. This is an actual client said, my heart feels like it's in its stomach. And this is the visual. Now, every time she feels this, she says, most of the time she's angry. She accepts the anger, and the moment she does, it dissipates. And then we ask, well, what do you want to do with that? How do you want to change that? But if we don't pause and we don't have a prompt, she can't access her memory. Remember, accessing visual memory. But she had to do all those things. She had to pause, pay attention to the emotion, process it. She had no memory in there. I asked her what she was thinking. She told me. And here was the visual. This is a 9-year-old kid talks about the domino. He carries dominoes, a domino in his pocket. He has a domino in his room. He's got them in like 6 locations. And the domino's there to remind him he controls the domino that makes them all fall or can hold them up by what he pays attention to. And he actually, whenever he feels negative, he whips the domino out. And it reminds him, I don't want them to ruin my life. Now, he started this when I've been coaching him 4 years. Now he doesn't need the domino anymore. He just says, oh, domino, because he's reinforced it over and over. Neural pathways. This is now a strength of emotional intelligence. And what happened when he did this? His grades went up. His executive function improved. I've worked with almost every age group. And if they don't learn how to identify what's getting in the way, and that what's getting in the way is that emotional, strong current, they can't move forward.